Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. This is me, Nadia Rajput from DESI TV USA. Let's have a look at the special report. Immigrant survivors of domestic violence face rising barriers to safety and justice. American community media hosted a powerful national media briefing on September 12, 2025, highlighting the increasing barriers immigrant survivors of domestic violence face in accessing safety and justice. The virtual event ran from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. and featured three distinguished speakers: Carmen McDonald, Patima Komolamit, and Morgan Weibel. The briefing offered deep insights into the legal, social, and policy challenges confronting survivors, particularly women and children from immigrant communities, and called for urgent systemic reforms. Immigrant survivors of domestic violence continue to face escalating challenges as critical legal protections weaken and funding restrictions tighten. Survivors applying for U visas or VAWA visas face heightened scrutiny and stricter application processes, while gender-based asylum protections have been significantly limited. Many domestic violence organizations also struggle under new anti-DEIA restrictions tied to federal funding, making it harder to provide essential services. Fear of ICE raids has only worsened the situation, leading many survivors to avoid reporting abuse. The speakers at the briefing emphasized these barriers while also providing pathways forward, urging lawmakers, advocates, and communities to stand in solidarity with survivors. Carmen McDonald, Executive Director, Survivor Justice Center. Carmen McDonald brought over 20 years of experience in advancing justice for survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking. At the briefing, she explained how systemic inequalities in family and immigration law deepen the struggles of low-income survivors. Patima Komolamit, Executive Director, Center for the Pacific Asian Family. Patima Komolamit, with 2 decades of work on social justice and violence prevention, shared her experiences in supporting survivors of gender-based violence across immigrant and refugees communities. She highlighted how cultural and language barriers leave many women and children isolated and vulnerable. Morgan Weibel, Director of Client Advocacy and Legal Services, Tahiri Justice Center. Morgan Weibel, an accomplished advocate for immigrant rights, spoke about the growing legal challenges survivors face when navigating the U.S. asylum system. She described how survivors often struggle to prove gender-based claims due to increasing legal restrictions and political pushback. Morgan also stressed the importance of trauma-informed legal representation, emphasizing the survivors shouldn't have to relive their abuse to access justice. The national briefing made it clear that immigrant survivors of domestic violence face rising barriers at every level: legal, social, and systemic. The three speakers collectively called for immediate reforms to restore protections, expand funding for community-based organizations, and prioritize survivor safety over punitive immigration measures. Carmen McDonald focused on strengthening legal protections and representation. Patima Komolamit underscored the role of culturally competent community programs, and Morgan Weibel highlighted the pressing need for fair asylum processes and trauma-informed advocacy. Together, their voices amplified the urgent message: immigrant survivors deserve safety, dignity, and justice. This briefing served not only as an analysis of the crisis but also as a call to action for policymakers, advocates, and communities across the nation to ensure that survivors are no longer left vulnerable to violence and systemic neglect.
Welcome to today's American Community Media Weekly National Briefing. I'm Pilar Marrero, your moderator for today, and co-producer of American Community Media's weekly news briefings with my colleague Sunita Sorachi. Immigrant survivors of domestic violence are encountering new obstacles to safety As critical legal and funding protections erode, survivors applying for U visas given to victims of violent crime and VAWA visas, which allow survivors to petition for immigrant status separate from an abusive partner, face greater scrutiny and stricter application procedures.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me to be here to talk about the devastating impact the recent immigration enforcement has had on immigrant survivors. I am the executive director at the Survivor Justice Center. We provide free legal services for low-income survivors in Los Angeles County. We also have an integrated social work model where we provide full and holistic services because we know survivors face multiple barriers. About 70% of our clients are immigrants. Los Angeles is home to one of the largest immigrant communities in the nation. And when the raids began, the fear they generated spread far beyond folks that were targeted. And that spread to survivors and silenced survivors. And so there are resources that we want to make sure folks know about, but to understand that this is not just a humanitarian crisis, it's a public safety crisis. When survivors are silenced, abusers go free. When immigrants are too afraid to call the police, everyone is less safe. Thank you for giving me this time to talk about this important issue.
Thank you so much, Carmen. We have several questions in the chat. Araceli Martinez from La Opinión, ask your question, please.
Thank you, Pilar. Good day. Good day to everybody. I would like to ask, what is the current processing time for VAWA visas? I have been hearing that it has taken a long time. And what advice would you give to immigrants so they are not afraid to report domestic violence when we see that, for example, in Los Angeles, the LAPD is helping to these ICE agents when they are doing the raids? So I would be in panic. So what would be, I would like that you can give us information about the current processing time, and also how can I avoid not be in panic to report domestic violence? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I am aware of the lengthy processing times. I don't know the number off the top of my head. One of my colleagues might be able to share that. I agree. The fear is real. You know, I can tell you, I have met with the mayor just this week, and it is.
Thank you so much. I'm an immigration attorney by trade, and I work with the Tahrir Justice Center, which is a national nonprofit. We have 5 offices across the country, and what we do is we provide free legal and social services to immigrant survivors of gender-based violence. So we all want to live in safe homes and communities. And we know that women who come to the United States seeking safety and protection are brave, they're powerful, and they're courageous. They're saving their lives and also their children's lives, as are those who are standing up to violence here in the US in their homes and seeking the protections that they are already entitled to under US law. But now, as you heard from Carmen, more than ever before, survivors are less likely to trust the system.
My name is Juana Padilla, and I'm a survivor of VAWA, domestic violence. And I was really lucky to find this legal center that they give me the tools and advice and help that I need to get my status. It takes me like 5 years, but during the process, they were really nice with me. They were supporting. They were always answering all my questions. I was afraid to ask, to even say, that I was abused. And it's hard. It's hard sometimes to go forward, and especially when your husband is an ex-military and they put in your head, you have no one and you have no one. And I see it myself when everything is hard. I call police. They will show up to my house, and he would put his uniform on the table, and they would say, "Oh, everything is fine," and they would never make a report. They would left, and for me that was like it's true. And since I have no family here in the country, I'm from Mexico, it was more hard for me to look forward. And it took me a while to step out. I even left the country. I went back to my country for 6 years. I take my kids, and I came back because he kidnapped my kids, and I had the opportunity to come back to start all over. And that's when I found them, and they were like really helpful. They give me all the tools right away. They take me maybe like a year or like 8 months to a year to get my work permit, to get my social, everything. And I have a little one that was born in Mexico, and they helped me too. They helped me with her. She have a condition that she needs to be treated here, and my fear was that if I don't get my residence, or if I don't get my status here, I was gonna send back in my country for my daughter to get treatment. It was gonna be really hard. But thanks to them, I'm here. I barely got my resident card. My little one get the resident card, and with all this Trump administration that is going crazy, I was afraid too that they're gonna get me and they're gonna send me back, and my little one is not gonna get treatment. But thanks God, we got it. We got it, and thanks to them, and I'm glad for all you guys that do all this work, all this organization. Any woman with any nationality have the rights, and like, thank you for all your work and support for people that you guys help, like me.
So much, Pilar, and also Sunita for inviting me to this really incredible space. And Juana, what an incredible, dynamic woman you are, and warrior on behalf of not just yourself, but also your children and other women who are going to see and witness your journey and be inspired by that, and hopefully be able to also seek services for themselves because they see that it's possible. So thank you for sharing your story. It is not easy, even in virtual boxes, right? And especially it's not easy being so vulnerable. So I really want to say I appreciate that. And to be in this space is amazing. It is, I have to say, on a Friday morning, it is really depressing to talk about all of the things that we're dealing with all in one space. But I'm here today to be able to talk about some of the restrictions that we are dealing with in terms of the funding. So let me introduce myself first. I'm Patima Komolamit, and I have the honor and privilege of serving as the Executive Director for Center for the Pacific Asian Family, which was established in 1978. And our mission is to build healthy and safe communities by addressing the root causes and consequences of family violence and violence against women. And our commitment is to ensuring that we are meeting the specific cultural and language needs of Asian Pacific Islander women and their families. We provide a multilingual crisis hotline, which I actually put in the chat for you all as a reference. It's there, and we always have a live person who's on the line, because we oftentimes know that if there is not that initial connection.
By Nicole Chang, people are being arrested in the process of appearing in court. Does the applicant have to go to court in person?
That varies. So attorneys across the country, at least in the immigration court context, I can share, are able to file what we call a motion for WebEx or remote appearance. But each individual judge decides whether or not they want to grant that motion. There's also been some suggestion that the administration is encouraging judges to deny those motions so that people have to appear in person and are then susceptible to arrest. So there's mechanisms, but how successful they are will really depend on who the individual is before.
Another question. Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to reiterate that is in the family courts or guardianship courts, the courts are messaging to ask for remote appearances. They will accommodate that. And that, again, is not immigration court. So if you're coming to court for a restraining order, you can appear remotely.
Gotcha. Okay. Another interesting question here. Last week, it was announced that military attorneys from the Department of Defense would be assigned to immigration courts to make up for the shortage of immigration judges. What changes are expected?
Well, in order to open up spaces for the JAG attorneys to come in and take on those positions, mass layoffs and firings of immigration judges occurred. And I would encourage all reporters to look into the asylum approval rates of the judges that were recently let go or fired, because I think you will see a pattern of higher approval rates for those judges. I think the administration is creating a process to deny and dismiss applications for asylum much more quickly. There was a board decision that issued just yesterday that, for the first time ever in history, states that judges can pre-termit asylum cases. So, in other words, before someone even has a hearing to present their case can be denied and kicked out of court. So there's some really serious due process concerns that are arising right now with the way everything is processing. And I put in the chat a link to the track system where you can look at approval rates by judge.
Okay, wonderful. Irene Diaz-Bazan is asking if there are resources available to support these migrant women who often remain in the shadows for years. She's referring to the high cost of applying to one of these visas.
Yeah, so another thing that happened out of that one big, beautiful bill that was passed is that asylum applicants now, for the first time ever, have to pay a $100 application fee. And then this is just extraordinary to me. For every year that their case remains pending before our government, they have to pay an annual fee of $100 for that case to remain pending. It's no fault of their own that the government can't process those applications expeditiously, but they have to pay annually for it. All of the other fees, or many of the other fees, like appeals, went up, sometimes doubling or tripling, as did waivers for inadmissibility that a lot of these applicants need.
They're certainly not trying to make it easier.
And can I add, sorry,
Yeah,
can
go
I
ahead.
just add that we are working on, letting our donors and our foundation partners know. So this is another call to action to set up funds to help pay. Like there's a fund for detention for bonds. The same, we're looking for support around helping pay for the fees because we don't want there to be that increased barrier for survivors.
This will be the last question because we're running out of time. From Ling Wang, how can media help on urgent policy change and reform? How can we help?
By having these spaces and uplifting the work that is being done and that continues to be done under the threat of so many different components to our, not just our client safety, but also sometimes our own personal safety. So understanding the risk and that we're continuing to do this no matter what, because we know that there's a need. We need reporters to be able to highlight that and also to highlight, the fact that there's a need for more resources out there. So that's what I would really hope would come out of this and have more spaces like this.
Please, Morgan and Carmen, add your 2 cents and to say goodbye because we're closing pretty soon.
Yeah, so I agree. Help us tell the story and spread the word. People call all the time and ask how they can help. You can help. You can contribute. We have a monthly donor campaign. Like I said, we could use volunteers and support. Call your electeds. When we put out the blast that we need folks to call their Congress people, put that out in the news for us. Help us. We're all on social media, on LinkedIn. We're trying to spread the word. And there are safe, confidential, legal, and social services that are free to help. Reach out, share the information. I put the national hotline information in the chat, and we do have culturally responsive, specific services for folks in their language. And thank you for giving us this opportunity.
Yeah, similarly, keep the spotlight on this, and I put a link in the chat to more materials.
Thank you, all of you, for the work that you do in helping families and women and communities, and to Juana for her courage for coming forward and talking to us today. And thank you to the reporters that showed up. Thank you, and have a good weekend, everyone.
That's all for now. Keep watching Desi TV USA. Please like, subscribe, share, and comment. And don't forget to watch our channels DTV, NNN, Desi, Urdu TV.
Now I am American. I have citizen.
I still have my Salvadorian passport and now I have my USA passport. I am a citizen of the US.
Khi cầm cái hộ chiếu Mỹ, cô rất là tự hào mình là công dân Mỹ.
La ciudadanía para mí significa oportunidades.
Si ya tienen el tiempo que pueden hacerse ciudadanas, que lo hagan.
No pierde nada uno con intentarlo.
Como dicen en México, echándole ganas, todo se puede.
Neurological care is a pressing healthcare challenge in Pakistan. That's why Helping Hand USA is building Kind R, a world-class hospital with 130 plus clinics that is set to establish new standards for neurological care in Pakistan. As the first phase nears completion, anticipation is growing for the launch in the second half of 2025. Give zakat and sadaqah through Helping Hand USA today and join this historic endeavor to redefine future healthcare in Pakistan.